You might have noticed that the Matrix ecosystem is betting on Rust. The Matrix Rust SDK is an important project in the ecosystem and it's written in Rust. There already are a few server implementations in Rust, most of them being based on Conduit. Synapse is one of the most popular home server deployments, as seen from matrix.org, and the software powering the matrix.org home server itself is Synapse. Synapse is written in Python, but Littlebirds told me that we could see bits of Rust here and there. My guest today is Will Lewis, engineering manager of the Synapse team at Element. He's here to tell us everything about Synapse Pro, what it brings to the table, who it's for, and where we can get it. Will, welcome.
Thanks, Tib. Yeah, great to be here.
It's your first time on Matrix Live, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So no pressure, I suppose. But yeah, I've certainly watched most of the previous Matrix lives, and I really enjoy the format. So yeah, thrilled to be taking part.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and dive into the questions we have. The first one I have is Synapse is the server Element is developing and releasing it under the AGPL-v3 license plus CLA. And Element recently announced Synapse Pro. So what is it? Is it a complete rewrite of Synapse?
It's not, no. A complete rewrite could be quite fun, if not a multi-year huge project, a big undertaking. No, Synapse Pro is additional functionality bolted on to FOSS Synapse, let's say. For instance, we've rewritten some workers in Rust, and you were just talking about Rust. Obviously, that's the kind of modern programming language of choice because it has built-in concurrency support and finer-grained control over resource usage, which we're really trying to exploit in Synapse Pro, which is great. And overall, as I say, functionality bolted on Synapse. And Synapse Pro itself is part of our Element server suite, which comes with additional enterprise components and everything in Kubernetes and so on.
All right, so if it's not a complete rewrite, what are the benefits of Synapse Pro over Synapse? I guess the Pro comes for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. It's really if you're very big deployments of Synapse, this is where you'd be interested in Synapse Pro because it makes it easy and cost effective. That's the idea. So if you compare it to regular Synapse, we're focusing with Synapse Pro on three kind of main areas. The first one is reducing the costs of running, which is a really important one. So if you're running a huge deployment of Synapse, obviously the cost to do so, the machines that you're paying for, the RAM, the CPU, so on, costs, it obviously rises with the size of the deployment. So what we've done is rewrite some of the workers in Rust, for instance, and we found in some cases that we see a 80% reduction in RAM usage, for instance, on those massive deployments, which is really cool. We're also focusing on kind of high availability in failover, which is typically something that those huge organizations really need for obvious reasons. So that's things like making the workers even more horizontally scalable, better, and easier to configure. The ability to cover load spikes is something that we hear from those big organizations, and that's something we can do really well with Synapse Pro. And finally, I guess ease of operations. So we're looking for zero downtime rolling updates with Synapse Pro. So you don't have to worry about downtime for all of your many users in those big deployments. And you don't have to worry about things like manual worker config ahead of time, and you get things like improved admin tooling and so on and so on. So yeah, it's if to distill the benefits of Synapse Pro succinctly, it's easy and cost effective for the huge kind of deployments of Synapse.
All right, so we're going to talk a bit later about who Synapse Pro is for, but the next question that is burning my lips is it open source?
Yeah, it's not open source. It is private. The simple reason being that we need to be funded in order to exist as Element, and it's just one of those facts of life. We really want this to be a way to fund core Matrix development. That's entirely the idea. We know obviously about the issue that plagues a lot of open source companies, in that lots of organizations and governments don't contribute upstream. So what we're trying to do here with Synapse Pro is give a very concrete incentive for those big organizations and companies to contribute back. And that's the idea behind not being open source.
Right, but Element is a for-profit company, and all for-profit companies are looking after profit, interestingly. So does that mean the open source version of Synapse is going to be discontinued?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Which is great, because obviously I'm a user of FOSS Synapse myself, so it'd be nice to always keep it around. But no, Synapse Pro should help us fund our FOSS work to go faster again on our FOSS projects. So tangibly, what that means, Synapse Pro is focused on making huge deployments easy and cost efficient. That's a relatively small part of the overall picture. Everything else will be added to Synapse FOSS as it is today. So we're talking about security updates, performance, new features. For instance, we'll keep the schema of the DB the same between Synapse and Synapse Pro. So if you do use Synapse Pro, you're not locked in. Security fixes, as I mentioned, will all be in FOSS. We really see FOSS as something where we need to keep improving performance, keep it to be a really, really great use case for everyone. It's only really those massive deployments that we're focusing on for Synapse Pro. So hopefully you can see like the clear difference in use cases, and that kind of logically means that one's not going to take over the other, and that's definitely not where we're heading at all with it.
And so the way I understand it is that Synapse Pro is building on top of Synapse anyway, so it doesn't make sense to abandon Synapse in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, totally committed to keeping Synapse FOSS performant, for instance. Yeah.
So the other question I would have is, I'm a nerd and I like to fiddle with things. For example, I would love to have a Kubernetes cluster at home to host a static web page that I'm going to be the only one to browse. So something that's massively overscaled for my use case is something appealing to me. Can I upgrade from Synapse open source to Synapse Pro?
If you're running ESS or normal, FOSS Synapse, yeah, totally. We can definitely walk you through the process and get you on Synapse Pro.
So you already gave me some hints for the next question, but I was wondering, as an individual self-hosting their server, or a small organization, for example, let's say I have 20 people organization. Does it make sense for me to buy Synapse Pro in the first place? Does it make sense for me to upgrade?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Which I think just re-emphasizes my point earlier about the kind of more linear differentiation between Synapse and Synapse Pro. So, if you're hosting a matrix.org sized deployment, for example, then definitely Synapse Pro makes sense. And we do host matrix.org with Synapse Pro today. But for small and medium deployments, then no, it totally doesn't make sense. For instance, I have, as I mentioned, my own home server at home, which is great. That's FOSS Synapse. I don't run Synapse Pro. I could, since I've got access to it as the engineering manager of the team, but I don't because it doesn't make sense. I wouldn't be using any of the functionality that comes with Synapse Pro because performance and standard features goes into FOSS Synapse. So it's just the massive deployment add-ons essentially that stay in Synapse Pro.
So it makes sense for a server of the scale of matrix.org, and actually this is what matrix.org is using at the moment. Is it using Synapse Pro?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so would it be possible to undo Synapse Pro if the foundation at some point either wanted to get back to regular Synapse for some reason?
Yeah, totally. So the DB schema is the same from Synapse and Synapse Pro, and that's a commitment we have for certainly the known future. So that means if the matrix.org foundation wanted to, you could take out Synapse Pro and plug in whatever you needed. And I guess that's kind of a good point in general for people seeing Synapse Pro as a locked-in version. One, because of the DB schema, obviously that's not quite the case. But two, because everything is based on Matrix, it kind of takes away that argument a bit more as well.
All right, so if for some reason I had a Synapse Pro deployment and instead of paying for Synapse Pro, I wanted to pay for more resources to my cloud provider, this is something I can absolutely do.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. As a foundation, given that Element has granted a license of Synapse Pro to the foundation, an irrevocable, I think the terms are pretty strong. I think it's permanent, irrevocable, transferable license of Synapse Pro to the foundation. The foundation is probably going to stay on Synapse Pro, but if the foundation wanted, we could just get rid of it and throw a lot of money to cloud providers instead, which we are probably not going to do. Would you say that Synapse Pro is done, or do you plan to add new features?
It's certainly not done yet. It's obviously in a good place, and I love talking about it. There's loads of really cool stuff in Synapse Pro, obviously now, but we've got big ambitions with it. So the things that big organizations, really big organizations, can expect would be we're going to be adding functionality that keeps driving down resource usage. So we've got a lot more tricks up our sleeves yet on that front, which is great. Obviously, we've got so much knowledge in house. We've just haven't got enough time to realize it all at once. But yeah, lots more exciting stuff to come there. We also want to make it easier to run as well operationally, and we will be continuing to. As I say, it comes with ESS, so the two will continue to complement each other with more enterprise style features as well in future. So, yeah, lots more to come with Synapse Pro, and we hope it becomes an even more attractive offering in future, even more so than it is today.
All right. If Synapse Pro is not for individuals and small organizations, who is it for then?
Yeah, so very massive deployments. So a good example could be the German healthcare market. We're talking like 10 million, 20 million people, big government entities, very serious, mission critical setups. So essentially, if you're a very big organization, you should be pretty excited about Synapse Pro, for the reasons of saving money and being easier to operate. So yeah, big deployments of Synapse is the takeaway. Yeah.
All right. Usually in open source, when companies tend to go for an open core model, over time, the open core tends to shrink and the proprietary bits tend to grow. Do you think Synapse Pro is going to end up eating Synapse, the open source version of Synapse?
It's a great question, and I'm really confident in saying that it won't. Synapse will definitely remain at the center of everything we do. As mentioned, kind of previously, the use cases between Synapse Pro, very big deployments, and regular Synapse have quite distinct boundaries. I can't see a world where that isn't the case. For instance, our goal is for FOSS Synapse to be even more performant than it is today, so those improvements will come. From a technical perspective, we want to keep the divergence to what is just absolutely necessary to satisfy that use case. For instance, we won't be shoving things into Synapse Pro just because we can. We don't have the resources or the time to be able to even contemplate that, even if we wanted to, which we don't. So yeah, you can count on things that exist today in Synapse being supported in future. We won't be moving anything out of Synapse. Just from a high level point as well, it's worth pointing out that our business model does depend on the wide adoption of Matrix, and that can only happen if Synapse FOSS is great and usable. So coming from a community member myself using FOSS Synapse, that's something I can say with high confidence and assertion.
All right. Fantastic. So is there anything else the world should know about Synapse Pro or Element in general?
Well, I guess if you are a big organization and you want to try Synapse Pro and ESS, contact us at element.io or myself. From me personally and from the backend team working on Synapse, just a massive thanks to everyone using Synapse. We really enjoy working on it and interacting with the community, and long may that continue.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Will, for all the insights of Synapse Pro, and I see you next week, Matrix Live.
Thank you.